Kick him in the dick. Kick him in the dick. Kick him. Kick him. Kick him in the dick. Kick him in the dick.
Hi, Spots and Cheap Pops. You're on the air.
Hi, Spots and Cheap Pops, ladies and gentlemen. Vladi Dadi. It's Silicon Steve Valley, and we are in some really interesting times. A lot of major things happening in WWE over the past week, and we're going to try to tackle all of them. Some big news coming out of SmackDown tonight. We're going to have a little bit more of a conversation about that a little bit after the fact. So we got a lot of stuff to tackle with WWE. We kind of focused a lot on AEW with their pay-per-view coming up and everything that they had going on as last week. And obviously the big things happening with Ospreay and all that, but we're going to get into WWE, get into all the meat on the bones. We got Clash at the Castle last week, which might have been the worst pay-per-view in the Triple H era. I've got to be honest with you. There were a lot of holes in the game of that particular pay-per-view. So I don't know how much you saw, Vladi, if you saw the whole thing or what have you.
I didn't see the whole thing. I was kind of disheartened. And then went and cherry picked what I saw, you know?
No, so, I'm the same way. Like, I really didn't have a lot of, ironically, the one match that was the biggest surprise. I think there were a couple surprises. That's the thing. The surprises were awesome. Like, they really keep you on your toes. The fact that Alba Fire and Isla Dawn won the tag team championships was absolutely shocking. I don't think anybody saw that coming. And then you had Chad Gable. I think a lot of people thought Chad Gable was going to walk away the victor. He didn't. And I think a lot of people thought Drew McIntyre was going to win. Yeah. I think you and I both picked those things. Yeah. And ironically, Vladi,
and you know, okay. Yeah, and honestly, the thing is, if I was watching that live and I saw the women's tag team match go to Isla Dawn and Alba Fire, I would have thought to myself, there's no way Drew's going to win now. Because there's the bone that Triple H gave to the crowd.
That's a
it would have been, yeah, it is. And it's like, okay, and like I know part of it, it's like the one of the ladies' mother passed away, unfortunately, and it's like, makes it more emotional, all that. But, again, like honestly, if I saw that live, I would have been like, oh my God. I'm like, he's going to do this to McIntyre again. And so, with that being said, I did cherry pick what I watched. And one of the, I don't know if you mind talking about it first, but the Cody AJ match, not necessarily my cup of tea, man.
I thought it was, they worked their asses off. AJ took this ridiculous bump when he got hit in the head with a chair. He bounced like 3 times through a table. So AJ can still do it. This was not a very good I Quit match. This was one of the weakest I Quit matches I've ever seen. I know a lot of people loved it and all that. Mm-hmm. AJ didn't even look like he was beaten at the end. He's like, whoa, okay, calm down, buddy. Oh, I quit. Yeah. Come on, man.
And it reminded me of the Edge Christian match,
which was done great. No one saw it, but
yeah. But it's like, why would they do something so similar? As what I was thinking when I watched it, and also, really, do I have to see Cody's mom involved in this too?
Mama Rhodes needs to be put in her place. Mama Rhodes. Yeah. No, I thought it was terrible. I just thought the whole build at the end, I thought AJ looked like a bitch for quitting. Yeah. Because he was afraid of getting hit with a spot that happens in every no DQ match, and then some. I mean, the steel chairs has never been, oh my God, the steel chairs. It's like a steel, it's like it's a... To me, I just thought it was a silly thing, particularly after you saw Adam Copeland literally take a spiked bat to Christian's ball sack and then kick him repeatedly over and over, as we saw in our cold open, and repeatedly. And then he was going to do it one more time and then he finally quit. And then Christian finally quit. Like Christian and Adam Copeland showed you what an I Quit match should be. And then AJ and Cody do a very similar finish, as you alluded to, with utilizing the handcuffs. No. And the thing is, if the finish was good, it would have been a fine match. It's okay. But the finish was copied, and it wasn't done nearly as well. It was like, it's like buying it on Etsy, or buying it on Wish. And so Cody can't have too many of these kind of matches, especially when you're with AJ Styles. It was very disappointing. And I know it's weird because you don't get a lot of criticism with WWE because it's been so good lately. But that was bad. And then, Vladi, you go to the tag match, and Jade Cargill looked as bad as she has looked, I think, maybe in her entire career. And we saw most of her matches. I didn't see any dark matches that she was on.
Yeah.
But she was terrible. Spot. And once she blew her spot, with those ropes were tricky all night long. So, like accidents happen. These are athletes. It's live. I get it. But she did not recover. She taps out. She just looked awkward the rest of the night. Jade Cargill was nothing but exposed. And look, dominant woman, but were you able to see anything? Again, Jade Cargill really showing her stripes. And I know she's only had 70 professional matches, but she's been in the business long enough where there's some things that she really struggles with stuff.
Yeah, I don't know if she's prepared to do like a 3-team, triple threat tag team match. There's a lot of stuff going on there. And it seems like she's very rehearsed. And I don't know if she can go at that pace, honestly. And I'm not making excuses for her. I'm just saying she's green, and I've seen bad stuff in AEW. I've seen mediocre stuff from her a little bit in WWE. I've also seen her look pretty strong when presented right. So I don't know, and again, leading into this, truth be told, when we discussed it, I'm like talking about her and Bianca being like the next Road Warriors. Yeah. And here they're like jobbing out the next match. I'm like, all right, I guess I know shit.
That was a very unceremonious finish to probably what could have been a great all-time tag team.
Yeah.
I thought it was terrible, to be honest with you. I really, not terrible. I mean, again, because you had Piper Niven had to lose, and you were doing the thing with Drew McIntyre. Obviously, that's a big part of it, and that's fine. Mm-hmm. Sammy and Gable were easily the best match of the night, and I don't think it's even close. And the story continues to grow there, and it's even gotten more on Monday night, and Chad Gable's now dead with a bullet in his brain. So that's what happened there. Yeah, we'll get to that in a little bit. And then you had the Bayley-Piper match, which was not the best women's match they'll ever have by any stretch. It looked a little sloppy at times. And that comes from John, my buddy John Luxa, who I went to see AEW Collision last night, me and like 17 other people. We're going to get into that later when we talk about AEW in the show. But it was okay, though. Bayley, easy win. We knew that one was going to happen. And then it happened. My guy, my buddy, who I picked against Vladi Dadi. The curse of Drew McIntyre continues to haunt Vladi Dadi as CM Punk, in a beautifully shot way, comes down, does the false finish as the referee, does the deuce. I mean, it was a beautifully done thing. It pissed me off because I wanted Drew to win, and I think CM Punk is a dick. I'm on CM Punk's side. And then just the way Punk did it when he was getting out choked, and then he just hits him with a low blow. Very heelish. And I'll tell you what, it was shocking. I was surprised Punk got there. However, I guess there were reports he was in Glasgow. So once those reports came, I'm glad I didn't see those reports because I was genuinely surprised when I saw it. Because if I saw those reports, I would have known. But what are your thoughts on, again, this McIntyre Punk thing? We thought Punk and MJF was good. This might be going well beyond that before we're all said and done. They haven't even had a match yet. Yeah,
and the thing is, I called you crazy for picking Damian Priest because I'm like, there's no way Triple H is going to book against him in Glasgow. Him re-signing, and again, like you made some valid points about being too soon for Damian and all this, but in the same breath, I'm like, he's the guy. Like, there's no doubt about it, and it's like, all right, now this is what Punk could be chasing, and for them to go this route and really just literally kick him between the legs in front of the home crowd and just acting like a referee, which is sort of a new nuance here where we haven't seen something like that. And just the way they filmed it was a great idea. Because you didn't know who the hell that was at first. And then all of a sudden, then you're as shocked as Drew, which is, again, this is almost cinematic. It's been used quite a bit. And that's something, and honestly, that's something you wouldn't have caught on AEW. Like, that would have been like a telltale, like the way they would go and have their directors handle the shows. So that was staged beautifully. And just like, I was like, holy shit. I mean, this is putting that feud over the top, nuclear heat with the hometown crowd in terms of Punk being there. And honestly, it's just like, I almost have some sort of pity for McIntyre at this point. Like, he's he's, sort of like the anti-hero in between, if you will. And for some reason, man, he can't get over this hurdle and has been totally outwitted by Punk left and right since WrestleMania.
While Punk is on the disabled list.
Yes.
Like Punk is, the fact that Punk has contributed this much to the show, to his credit, because we know he can't wrestle anymore, but damn, he can cut a promo and ruin some matches for my boy DM Hunk. I'm kidding. I tell you, I thought it was shot beautifully, because I even said I didn't think there was any way Punk would go all the way to Glasgow for it. And Triple H referenced that. It's a long way to go to be an angry man. Triple H also made a joke. Did you catch that? The joke about his blood sugar?
No, I didn't catch that.
Oh, he's always eating pastries or donuts every time he has some kind of trouble. Maybe it's something with blood sugar. So Triple H throwing a little reference to the original Brawl Out. And again, this is headed to nuclear stuff. The following night, we know Drew McIntyre couldn't even get the words out. He wound up just walking out, doing a Batista and quitting. Obviously, he's not really quitting. And we're going to get that at SummerSlam. But obviously, I think we're actually recording this during SmackDown, and we both wanted to watch the Open. Apparently, something big happened. Vladi Dadi knows. I told him, no, I don't want to see it. I want to see it and experience it as a fan. But something big happened on SmackDown's Open. I'm assuming something with Mr. Punk. Now, Drew's going to be gone. Maybe take care of his wife for a little bit. Maybe Drew came back tonight and already jumped on Punk. Who knows? But it's going to be pretty interesting. I'm just excited because Drew McIntyre has totally upped his game on the promo game. He has gone at the very least toe-to-toe with CM Punk, which we haven't seen anybody really do, with the exception of maybe MJF.
Yeah.
Cena and Triple H held their own back in the day too, but CM Punk was just on another level back then. Those 2 or 3 years. So, and McIntyre has all the physical tools. He's a big man that can work his ass off. I almost, a part of me wants them to be the world championship match and close night 1 next year. I really would. Mm-hmm. And I'm a guy who doesn't want CM Punk. At the time, I've yelled, I don't want him to get his main event, which I do want him to get his main event, but I want him to earn it, which I've said. Mm-hmm. So it looks like he's going to get the opportunity, and he has worked his ass off. He's evoking emotion and entertaining the shit out of people. And you're really feeling this Drew McIntyre CM Punk feud, and it continues to get better. And again, they haven't had a match yet. Did you catch Punk clowning that one British writer about the guy suggested to Punk that McIntyre and his first match should be a Hell in a Cell, which, and you just saw it in his face. He's like, you could tell Punk just wanted to jump across the table and snap on him, but he ate his pastry. He's like, that's why I'm glad you don't run a wrestling company. He's like, come on, man. Hell in a Cell first match. Take that fantasy booking shit somewhere else. So Punk was very entertaining in his scrum, and he said he's going to make sure Drew McIntyre never gets that championship. So Vladi Dadi, I've said it a couple times since then, I think we are headed to a double turn because, yes, Drew McIntyre is now a sympathetic character, just like you said. Yeah. But that was such a great surprise, even though it was a kick in the balls to the hometown crowd. Great surprise, and we're going to get a great payoff as this continues to go on. And Drew will get his big win in Scotland again. I could probably think of that.
Man, I hope so. I don't know if I'm ever picking them.
The pay-per-view wasn't bad, but it was probably but Triple H doesn't have many bad pay-per-views. To me, with some of the holes in it, it might have been in terms of wrestling match quality. It could have been the worst one since the Triple H era began, just in terms of the matches. But the surprises and the energy of the crowd, again, it wasn't France. But Lyon, but it was still a good crowd, a raucous crowd, and they certainly were popping for McIntyre. So overall, it was an okay pay-per-view, but the matches, again, the AJ Cody match was a disaster, that finish. Absolute disaster. And considering the people that were involved, come on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've been very praiseworthy of Triple H and WWE in recent months. And, we're just being fair about this. This one was a little bit of a drop in terms of the level of performance in some ways, and just the execution wasn't necessarily that great. So, it's the good with the bad. We'll still be watching next week. It's all good. But, I mean, it's just one of those things where I guess he can't hit a home run every time, and this one seemed more like a double.
Yeah, and again, surprises and everything worked out. Next night on Raw, they didn't stop. Seth frickin' Rollins came back about 2 or 3 months earlier than I thought he was gonna.
Yeah.
Opens the show. Him and Damian Priest are headed to a match at Money in the Bank where I assume Priest is going to win that one too. Triple H is giving him an opportunity to sit there and say, I beat Drew McIntyre, I beat Seth Rollins. So at least when he drops the title, probably to Gunther, either at SummerSlam or does Gunther get a rematch, lose, and then gets a rematch in Berlin? We don't know. But Damian Priest, that was my big thing. I didn't think Triple H was going to take the title off him because he would have been transitional. And he would, and by the way, when he loses his title, he's not getting it back for a long time, folks.
It's true.
It's the reality. There's 3 or 4 other guys in that roster, if not 5 other guys on that Raw roster that would be better champions at this point in time. Maybe not 5, but you got Gunther, Seth, Drew, and even Punk. That's 4 guys that are bigger stars.
Yeah.
So that's headed. But I'll tell you what, quick thing on the Judgment Day. You said it yourself. Finn Balor is getting that knife and ready to stab it in the back of Damian Priest and maybe even Dirty Dom.
Yeah.
This is what's weird. Dom is still the most hated guy in your faction, and it looks like he's almost becoming a sympathetic character in this instance as well. Because, Finn Balor, who, by the way, had a little mini faction with AJ Styles and Liv Morgan about 1.5 years ago or 2 years ago. I think it might have been still during the Vince McMahon era, so it might have been 3 years ago. So there's some history there. He got the key. He's been really weird and really involved in everything. Finn Balor is going to try to take over Judgment Day with Liv, and Liv Morgan takes everything away from Rhea Ripley, including her own faction. Imagine that.
Yeah. Yeah, you could see it on Finn. It just, and the way he's operating, it's like unbeknownst to like McDonough and Dom especially, and he's just being really elusive about stuff behind the scenes there. And I don't know. You and I are not the biggest Judgment Day guys by any means, but it seems like they are going to be turning this this faction away from its 2 supposed leaders and Rhea Ripley and even Damian Priest.
And then you'll have Balor and Priest probably feud prior to that. Is there any way Rollins beats El Campeon and he's the one that takes on Gunther at SummerSlam? And that's when we'll have the AJ and we'll have the Finn Balor turn at Money in the Bank or shortly after. That's what I'm wondering. Because SummerSlam, you want a big payoff match. And
SummerSlam, you're getting Gunther versus champ, right?
Yeah, so I'd rather see Gunther and Seth. No offense to El Campeon.
Yeah. Now, they did have that quick segment where, Damian Priest asked Finn, what happens if you win that? He's like, I'll go challenge Cody. But then again, what if he's bullshitting him?
Balor lost, didn't he? Anyway?
Oh, yeah, you're right. And as far as the qualifying, okay, so it doesn't even matter. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, Jey Uso.
I'm sorry about that.
No, you're good.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Yeah.
But that wasn't the only thing that happened. Obviously, Drew McIntyre comes out. He cut his promo and he quit. Dominic Mysterio was looking for his vest for 2 hours. And that was funny. Botchamania had a lot of funny things just from this past Raw alone. It was great, including Michael Kay being a complete dope. But either way, then I guess we could get in from that, and Vladi, and we could go right into the finish of Raw, unless there's anything else you wanted to cover on Raw.
No, actually, the Wyatt 6.
Exactly. So we go to the finish of Raw, which was the Wyatt 6. Literally all of the Funhouse characters, the Firefly Funhouse characters, come to life. It's like live action Lion King. It's amazing. Yeah. So this obviously the rumor to everyone exactly what everyone thought. Joe Gacy, Dexter Lumis. Lumis, I guess he's the which one is Lumis? He's the
Vulture.
What's up? He's the Vulture. Oh, he's the Buzzard. Okay.
Buzzard, yeah.
Mercy the Buzzard.
Yep.
He's Mercy. Ramblin' Rabbit, that was a goofy character to try to turn him into some kind of crazy. And Ramblin' Rabbit, I guess that's Eric Rowan.
That's Rowan, yeah. We saw he had the Bludgeon Brothers sledgehammer,
which was awesome. That was a nice touch. And I guess, and then you have the one that I was most impressed with was going to be Nikki Cross. She played that character beautifully. She was the only one that I really was moved by. Mm-hmm. I get what they're trying to do here. They had a lot of things in place where these characters were going to come to life anyway. Obviously, the tragedy would happen with Bray, but this didn't blow my skirt up, especially, by the way, Chad Gable took a bullet to the skull. What is that?
Yeah, and you know what? Like, I guess through the video packages that they're the QR codes, they've been warning him the entire time. He's definitely been a major target of theirs for whatever reason, and it literally looks like he murdered them. They murdered him, and not only that. I mean, even the first shot with Dexter Loomis, there was like somebody against a wall, and it looked like somebody blew his brains out too. You know, and that was just like, what that? Like, all of a sudden you were like subjected into like being involved in like a horror film at this point.
A little over the top.
And yeah, very much so. And it's like, you know, and again, I don't know where they're going to go with this, how they're going to explain this. You know, they're already, and it, you know, what was intriguing too is like they got McIntyre out of there because he quit. Punk wasn't there because he was going to be at SmackDown. Sami Zayn spoke about how he left like 20 minutes earlier and, you know, wasn't there. So they're trying to figure out who's accounted for. What's his name? Adam Pearce. Evidently, they changed him back to like he was involved with the Firefly Funhouse as well, like as a mailman or something. And so his social media changed. And then even most recently, I guess during the Pat McAfee show, they basically went to they cut to black and then some blue screen showed up and it said "You lied" across it. So they're basically, you know, promoting this over different venues as well now to even McAfee's show. So I have no idea where this is going to go. They really opened up an interesting creative box that I hope will make sense. Find their way with this story, you know, because honestly, when Bray had his match with LA Knight, you and I were pretty critical of it. And I even brought it up. It was like Situation to me. It was almost like a living comic book. It reminded me something like Frank Miller would have done, but in neon, if you will. Yeah. So again, we're going back to this very, you know, like horror sort of comic book sort of realm. And I hope they can pay it off. You know, obviously, you know, here's the thing. Now, what's his name? Uncle Howdy, obviously Bo Dallas, his brother. Now, I mean, it's a nice touch, of course. Who's going to be the mouthpiece for this crew? Is it going to be Gacy? Is it going to be Bo? I know Bo can cut some promos, but we've only seen him in like a humorous light. So I don't know, you know, how this is going to pan out. And also, you know, you made mention of the name Wyatt Six, SICKS. I'm wondering if they did it and spelled it that way because, say, if they add more than 6 people or they only have 5 people or 4 people, it's just basically a reference to it, and it doesn't matter how many are in there at this point.
It also could have been the fact that Wyatt Bray is the 6th person. They just want to honor it because that was what was going to happen. Yeah, you called it a graphic novel several times when then. I didn't like where it was going. I got to be honest with you, and I know it might be sacrilege to say it at this point in time, because Bray obviously tragically lost and we didn't really get a chance to see where he was going with this character. But I wasn't in love with it. I was still intrigued and I still loved Bray, but I didn't like it. The program with LA Knight, that program did more for LA Knight than it did Bray. It really did. Yeah. LA Knight was taken off because he had balls. He went right after him despite all the spooky crap. And LA Knight was a heel. And that was really how he shined, was really the beginning of LA Knight getting this opportunity. And a couple weeks after that, he started getting cheered, people yelling yeah with him. Certainly should have been the following WrestleMania. So I hate to say it, I don't think this is going to be up my alley, quite frankly.
I could see people either loving it or hating it. I know it did create quite a stir in terms of like social media and views, so it paid off in that way already. But I mean, the truth is out there, so we'll see how this all pans out.
Absolutely. So that's what we got with WWE. But I'll tell you what, Triple H packed a lot of stuff in about 3 days worth. He really, really did. And we're headed to Money in the Bank. I think everyone and their mother thinks Jey Uso's going to win it. He's not a world champion, dude. Come on.
Who else is in that match? Uso?
They don't really know yet. We only had I think he was the only one that qualified so far.
Okay.
I think he had the first qualifying match. There's one tonight. And I think there's 2 more. Or there's 3 more. I'm not sure. It's going to be cleared up by the end of next week, I'm sure. I'm not sure where we're going. But my big question is, what do you have? I think Seth might beat Damian, though. And then we'll wrap up WWE. I think Seth might beat Damian because I think your better match is Seth and Gunther. And they've already exchanged words prior to WrestleMania.
Mm-hmm.
And that match has a salivating at our mouths because you have arguably the 2 very best workers in WWE right now, Seth Rollins and Gunther.
Yeah,
they would be my 2 in terms of in-ring performing. Those are my 2 favorite in WWE right now. And it's not close, really. I mean, maybe AJ, not after that I Quit match. Don't hit me with the steps. Ooh, I quit. Okay, buddy, relax. Whoa, man. Whoa, settle down, pal. Oh, I quit. Relax. That's how it looked. Whoa, I quit.
It was really anticlimactic, man.
Oh, it was weird finish. Weird, dumb finish. But either way, we already spent some time on that. But WWE still cooking. At least it's still really interesting and still a buzz. And these foreign crowds continue to make the pay-per-views great for us watching at home. That's the other thing. When the crowds are great, we at home are enjoying it. We always talk about Hogan Rock. Why was that match such legendary? It's not because they put on a 7-star match from Dave Meltzer. Certainly not. It's because that Toronto crowd was on fire. Ironically, that's where Toronto is exactly where the Money in the Bank is going to be. So we'll see what happens there. I wonder if they're going to be as raucous.
Yeah.
Botchamania did a funny spot on that too. They did where it was a SpongeBob thing where every time SpongeBob came out, the crowd would go crazy. And every time the squid came out, Squidward, I guess his name is.
Yeah.
Every time Squidward came out, the crowd would go silent. And so basically SpongeBob was international WWE fans. And where there was no crowd noise, it was American fans, which I thought was kind of funny. American fans, we're just fickle and lazy.
WWE is utilizing these foreign crowds perfectly. It's making the product look that much better.
That's the thing,
right? Because they appreciate it, and it's like then I'm watching just random SmackDown or random Raw here, and it's like you got to move heaven and hell for somebody to get off their hands and clap. And then listen, here's another thing: when somebody's cutting a promo, I understand we're Americans and we have the right to free speech, but can we just retire the what chants at this point?
It's pathetic.
I mean, it's so irritating at this point.
Pay attention to me. Pay attention to me. Pay attention to me. I'm part of the show. Brr.
Yeah.
I like how McIntyre's getting them every time they say something.
Yeah.
Your mother and father are cousins. Say what? What?
Yeah, exactly. He calls them inbreds.
Oh, I love Drew McIntyre, and by the way, these stupid fans, they keep on doing it.
They don't get the point. They don't get they can't take a hint.
Well,
I understand Stone Cold. If Stone Cold's out there, I get it. But if Piper Niven's trying to cut a promo, please let her speak.
I think there was one time Charlotte Flair was cutting this really impassioned promo, trying to talk about her journey and her injury and everything that she's gone through, and she's trying to open up and bare her soul, and they're what chanting her, and she's like, "Are you guys really whatting me right now?"
Exactly. I remember that.
I'll tell you what. I think let Dominic talk. I'm tired of him getting booed out of the building every time. Does Dominic turn babyface at the end of all this? By the way, that's another question.
I mean, it's a possibility.
Where does he go? If Finn's the one who's going to be, with Liv, if Finn's going to be with Liv, which is our assumption right now.
Unless he buddies up with Priest.
Because you really feel like Dominic Mysterio is literally doing his best to stay away from Liv. You really do feel that way for him.
And I got to give them credit for this because we've been a little negative with certain things. That cat and mouse game between Liv and Dominic has been beautifully done. She's great. Like the route she's like being a total temptress for him and him not knowing what the fuck to do is just great.
She's a Jersey pothead, man. We got to love them. You have to love the Jersey potheads.
He doesn't stand a chance, man.
She's really come a long way. I mean, obviously, out of the Riot Squad, we obviously know who the Sean was. They have two Martys. They got a Marty and a Viking out of the deal. But
yeah,
a lot of cool stuff. But it's funny you bring up crowds because I was at a show last night, Vladi Dadi. Dive it up for John Luxa. I don't know if it's Luxa or Luxa. I never asked him. But our boy John Luxa got me a free ticket. It was 8th row, dead center.
Nice.
And it was free. And the entire section was free. They still didn't fill up the last row on the bottom. It was I appreciate the AEW diehards. I had a great time with so many of them. We had some great conversations. It's more of an adult crowd, not a lot of kids there.
Yeah.
I mean, there's not many people there, to be honest. But not a lot of kids there. You had some people dressed up like Sting for some reason, like he's still wrestling or something. You had 2 people dressed up like Sting. I met a guy named Mike. Give a shout out to Mike. He actually had a Raw is Benoit shirt. That's balls to say that, have that shirt, have that name on your shirt. I wonder if it's Benoit Hogue of the New York Islanders from the late 80s, early 90s. I digress. But yeah, it was a fun experience. I had a blast. However, you felt the energy go out in the crowd after about an hour into Collision. Started off with a couple of really good Ring of Honor matches, including a world title match between Kyle Fletcher and Mark Briscoe for the Ring of Honor Championship. The Bang Bang Gang showed up. Juice Robinson is as entertaining as hell. So you had 2 really good warm-up matches for Ring of Honor. That was good. And then you had the opener. It was Brian Cage and Will Ospreay. And it was a banger. If you were watch Collision, it's the first match of the night. You're not going to be disappointed. A great match. I think Brian Cage is criminally underused. Hopefully that changes. But they had a great match. And then just the next couple of, you had Tony Storm come out and of course, Christian Cage was there. There were a lot of great performances, but then about the hour, all the matches stopped being interesting. It just started having no people that have never been on American television before getting beat. That you knew were going to lose. I don't even remember the one dude, the guy that Okada beat. Okada beat somebody from CMLL. I don't remember his name. That was the main event. How are you having Okada, who's still brand new, fresh face on American television? How are you putting Okada as your main event and expecting me on a Saturday night to sit there and watch it, or having him have my remote control with my DVR and not press fast forward?
Yeah,
it's a joke. And then there was a couple other squash matches, and it just made absolutely no sense, and it took the energy out of the crowd because look, you can only fake being excited so much. And yeah, everyone gets their pop, whatever, but there's not the excitement there because Tony Khan keeps on putting people that you have to be an insane wrestling dork to know all these people. And God bless you if you do. But putting it on American television as your main event on a Saturday night is beyond stupid. And it's actually, to me, irresponsible. Tony Khan has no idea to book a television show anymore. He's lost all his shit. It's a joke. Your last 3 matches involve people that there was a tag team from the indies that wrestled and they were fine, but I never heard of them, and you knew they were losing.
Right.
House of Black. It just, why are these your matches? Like Tony, you're not creating stars by just putting random people. You have a stacked roster. You have a completely stacked roster. Why are you pulling people from other companies that no one ever heard of? Nobody ever heard of them. Outside of this weird niche that, I mean, Jesus Christ, if you have enough time to watch CMLL, AEW, Ring of Honor, WWE, TNA, if you have enough time to watch all that wrestling in a week, God bless you. But I'm not spending too much time watching CMLL. I'll watch my New Japan stuff. CMLL is not a forbidden door that anyone gives a flying shit about, okay?
Period. And the ratings show it.
And we're going to get into that very next thing because there are some major issues with AEW, and I was able to see it firsthand. And folks, they were literally giving tickets away, and they could not fill the floor. They could not even fill the gosh darn floor, Vladi.
Sad.
It's pathetic. And so why are we going to keep on? And the thing is with Tony Khan, he keeps on pretending like everything's going great. You ain't got a TV contract yet. You can't even fill the floor where wrestlers are 15, 20, 30 feet away. You can't even fill that part of your building. It's a joke. And by the way, I enjoyed it. I had literally the entire last row to myself. I hopped behind John, and then I met these three awesome young dudes hanging out. Dude vaped right in front of the security guard. That was awesome. But shout out to them. And Brian, I forgot the other two's name, but Brian, give a shout out to them. That was great. There was a really good vibe what was there. But then the show just took a turn of nobody gives a fuck. And that's seemingly how Tony Khan books. Tony, don't even try on. Are you even trying on Collision? Are you even trying? You can't fill your floor on a televised taping. How is that possible that you don't see a gosh damn problem? Tell me, just make it make sense, Tony. How is this making any sense? You need to change something, buddy. Now, maybe you don't. You're a billionaire. You can do whatever you want, but you're going to have your product on Access if you don't shape up. Because Vladi Dadi, if you don't want to believe me with the crowds being minute, and also, by the way, everyone left after Collision because no one wanted to stick around for Rampage because that usually means even less than Collision.
Right.
So half the crowd left by the time Rampage comes on.
Did you see Tony Khan come out and talk to the crowd? Did you do that?
Oh, dude, he cuts a promo like a child. Hey, everybody, it's such a good time to hear a great night of wrestling and all the great AEW fans. You guys are great. Woo! He's a disaster.
Sounds inspiring.
He's a disaster. And by the way, again, grateful for Tony Khan for how he's impacted the business. He's one of the most influential people to make the business better of all time just because AEW was a catalyst for WWE getting their shit together. AEW helped the indie scene. AEW also feeds and has a bunch of wrestlers put food on their table for their family. So I want AEW to succeed, as do you. But something's got to give here, Tony. The ship is driving into the damn iceberg. And if you don't believe me there just because they couldn't even sell out the floor sections, by the way, no section was filled on the floor. There wasn't one. They were mostly filled, 80%, 90%, but the floor isn't even filled. How is that possible in a professional wrestling show on television? But if you don't believe me there, Vladi, why don't you tell me how great the AEW Dynamite ratings were this week?
They were able to go and grab the attention of 500,000 people.
Whoa. 502,000.
I'm sorry, I forgot about that other two.
It's media people like you that are trying to spin it to make AEW look like they're failing.
I'm sorry. Yeah, they need every viewer they can get at this point. 502,000 people tuned in to Dynamite, which was led off by MJF's first match from an injury.
And he's about to get injured again by doing stupid flips onto the damn floor.
Yeah, man. I was watching that, and I'm like, why do they have to go and bust their nut on his first net match back?
That's where the best wrestle.
Evidently.
Apparently, it's the best from the Indies and CMLL, though.
Yes. And that's part of the problem. Thinking about the ratings and how it's been nosediving, especially as we're headed towards Forbidden Door. Listen, you're the New Japan guy. I know New Japan through you. You've told me, hey, watch this, watch that. Thank you, and I appreciate you guiding me through it. However, CMLL has even a smaller crowd watching it, and now you're looking to elevate them for some reason at the expense of your own show.
Yeah.
Why?
Disaster.
I don't get it.
Because Tony Khan's a mark for these guys. He's a mark for these lucha libres because he can't get a contract with AAA. Who's the bigger promotion? I mean, New Japan was a real deal. New Japan was, for a long time, the second biggest promotion on the planet before AEW. New Japan is a big deal. Stars like Zack Sabre Jr., Tetsuya Naito, big stars. Not David Finlay. Just show. But New Japan is the real deal. CMLL, it does not have the same interest. And it looks like Forbidden Door is going to be predominantly CMLL matches. Ooh, scary.
Absolutely.
A random lucha libre company that no one cares about in the United States.
Yep. Just you look at it.
502,000, Vladi. And this wasn't even up against an NBA playoff.
That's what's scary. No competition.
Was a scary number.
Yeah. Yeah. Like
that's people picking reruns over you. That's people going to Netflix over you. That's people watching shitty reality TV over you.
Yeah.
And if that's, if these aren't telltale signs, look, and AEW fans that will swear that everything they do is golden. The fact remains they are not at all by any stretch of the imagination being successful, except for you. But you're not showing up to their venues and you're not watching them. And if you are, nobody else is. So something's got to give here.
Yeah, Tony and his decisions have become the living epitome of the definition of insanity. He keeps on doing the same thing and nothing's changing. If anything, it's getting worse. So you know what? And you made a proper point. He's got a hell of a roster. Concentrate on the AEW roster and make programs amongst those wrestlers versus leeching off of another company and saying, hey, look at this flashbang. I'm going to go and throw this out at you. Look at this sparkly new toy that's not going to be here after this next pay-per-view. So you don't have to get emotionally invested anyways. Most of your audience wants some sort of emotional investment. Like you mentioned, 2 people dressed as Sting for some reason, right? You and I can't describe why, but for some reason they were drawn to do that.
Yeah, true.
And honestly, you're not going to have anybody dressing like one of the CML guys. It's not the right audience. So listen, out of all this, say if they just went and spotlighted and, Moxley's going to have a New Japan match, right?
That's really the only one.
Yeah, and then you look at Mercedes Moné, that's a CML match, and then MJF has a CML match, right? And the guy that MJF is wrestling, I have no problems with. If anybody, I wish he was in AEW. Honestly, he's pretty good.
Yeah, he wrestled. He wrestled. He'll be on TV this weekend. He's good.
But other than that, the rest of those CMLL guys, they're a dime a dozen types of luchadors.
Yeah. And by the way, it's one thing if you do what WCW did when they started sprinkling Psychoses and Rey Mysterio. Yeah. By the way, to Bischoff's credit for bringing those guys in. That's one thing I said Bischoff definitely did well.
Yeah.
Even Eddie Guerrero, the Lucha Libre style became but it wasn't a main focal of the show. It was a part of the show where you get to see some really good international talent. It was never a big part of the show.
Mm-hmm.
This dude's putting randos in the main event of a televised show.
Yeah.
He's booking it like Jim Crockett Productions in 2024.
Yeah.
I used to watch World. I've been watching a lot of World Championship Wrestling again in the 80s. I'm telling you what, another conversation for another time, but Jim Crockett Productions, if you put a gun to my head, I'd rather watch that now as an adult than the WWE that was on at the same time. Some great things were happening there, obviously. But you can't book a show like you did in the mid-'80s anymore. And he's doing that. He's having promos, and he's having inconsequential, should-be squash matches. But that's the other thing. These randos no one ever heard about, he gave Okada a great match. So some rando from Mexico is able to go one-on-one with Okada and almost beat him a couple times. I mean, it's stupidity. And that's your main event. And Okada hasn't even established himself as a major United States star yet. It is brutal. It's honestly, this is as bad as Vince was when Vince was bad. And the one thing they have in common, neither one of them thinks that they're doing anything wrong, clearly. Because if Khan had the lack of it, and I don't know if it's an ego or he's just being manipulated by other wrestlers, I don't know. But something has to say, look, guys, it's not working. We need to figure something out. Putting Okada in your main event on a television show against some dude that no one ever heard of is fucking stupid. It's stupid. And it's insanity. And it took, and the way he booked Collision took the entire energy out of that. The little crowd that was there took the entire energy out of that crowd by the second hour, to the point where my buddy John, again, one of the most positive wrestling fans I know, was like, yo, let's get out of here. I don't feel like watching Rampage. This was a free ticket right down the street from our house. We still left early.
Wow.
And they draw 500,000 people.
And I don't understand like why Tony Khan feels the need to demean his top talent like Okada and basically make at the expense of like lowering their abilities on a nationally televised show for some rando, as you mentioned. How is that getting your own talent over?
It's not. Okada is based on his legend from New Japan right now. That's how he's being booked. The problem is not everybody in America knows who Okada is. Right. They didn't see Kenny Okada.
Right.
They don't know the legend. They only heard about it. But they did that with Masachono in WCW. If you remember him, he was the legendary Masachono from New Japan. He actually joined the NWO. Mm-hmm. But he wasn't a main eventer. He wasn't a main spot. Tony Khan just handing main events to anyone who wants it. He doesn't know how to book a television show. And he's losing his audience, 502,000 people. That's it. On a bad week, it used to be 750,000. So whoever's still saying everything's all right in the world with AEW, you are on Dream Street in Fantasyland, and it's time for you to smell the smelling sauce, because the bottom line is this. I'm going to say bottom line is this a lot because it's all he said in Jim Crockett Promotions. The bottom line is this. If Tony doesn't turn his ship around, AEW is going to be gone, at least from mainstream television. It's that simple. And if you think otherwise, you're freaking delusional.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they got to prove to themselves, like, prove to Warner Brothers especially, like, hey, we're a viable sort of television show. They keep on losing the audience this steadily. They're not.
Well, this wasn't even steady. This was you lost 200,000 people, 180,000 people.
Yeah.
And look, they had game 3 of the NBA last time. So, okay, you understand that. Okay, I'll let you say that.
Yeah.
But you were on your regular time spot, unopposed to any big sporting event. Were the Padres and the Phillies a big draw? People watching that instead? Is that what it was?
No.
I don't even know if they played. Actually, they did play, so there you go.
But, I'm already seeing, like, the excuses. 1, it was Juneteenth. 2, it was the Black Panther movie let in versus the comedy show that usually with the nerds, Big Bang Theory.
People actually said that was an excuse?
Yeah, like, oh, they didn't have the lead in from the Big Bang Theory. It's like, okay, like most of that crowd is not watching wrestling. Sorry.
First of all, blaming your lead in is bullshit.
Yep.
Bullshit. 502,000 is an embarrassment. The entire company should be embarrassed and look at themselves and how they can change. And the funny thing is, I feel bad because you saw phenomenal promo with Swerve Strickland and Will Ospreay.
Ospreay, yeah.
There's some really great work happening in AEW and some extraordinarily talented people, but because Tony Khan refuses to get help from somebody who knows what they're doing, how to run a wrestling company, he refuses to get any goddamn help, whether it be from Scott D'Amore or even Shane by God McMahon or Don Callis or anybody. Jim Ross. And by the way, if Bryan Danielson is a big part of the booking, which apparently he is, disaster, because he cares about the in-ring performing. Danielson, your biggest moment was when you were doing Yes. That's the sweet irony. You need to be more sports entertainer-y. I know people hate to say it, but who's the most over person in the company right now? Maybe Will Ospreay, but who's the other one? Toni Storm. Why do they fall in love? And who was a big star beforehand because of his entertaining ability and promos? MJF. The people who make you feel are the ones that get over, even in AEW. You don't believe me? Daniel Garcia, you could hear a pin drop when he first came out. He started doing that stupid dance looking like from the Jerry Shore, as you famously called him, Danny Fandango, and then he gets the biggest pop he ever got in his life. So don't tell me you're all about wrestling when these are the people you're cheering for. Use your brain, niche fans who said, hey, what's wrong with putting... I saw one guy say, what's wrong with just putting on great professional wrestling matches? It's a wrestling show, isn't it? It's a pro wrestling show, yeah. Part of pro wrestling is promos and getting you to feel here. And by the way, you can have your 5-star matches all the time, but you can still tell stories in the midst of it to make those 5-star matches actually mean something, like Okada and Kenny. Not some rando 5-star match with Hetsu Sato and Kyle Fletcher, whoever the hell else whatever random match that Tony Khan's going to put on. I'm fired up right now, Vladi, clearly. I want this company to succeed, and Tony Khan doesn't seem to know what the hell he's doing, and he can't even see the big giant gorilla in the 700-pound gorilla in the room saying, you ain't getting a big TV contract, boy, and you are paying too many people millions of dollars a year to survive.
And you said the golden word, man. They got to move away from the pro wrestling gorilla mindset and look to go and make this a bigger deal. They were this close. They got to go and start concentrating on the internal roster. You and I have texted each other about the announced team. My opinion, they got to go and switch something up there.
Brutal.
It's just, it's a comedy show. And that's another thing. My opinion, there's way too much comedy amongst the segments. Okay. Like they have got to go and start becoming more serious. Like, for instance, I'm a fan of Mark Briscoe. I think when somebody randomly is changing the channel and they see that guy talking, they're like, what is going on with this guy? What is he talking about? He's just unique. Right? And then he's cutting a promo, which was humorous in itself in its own Mark Briscoe way. But I got to watch Kyle O'Reilly make funny faces throughout, which was totally distracting me from what Mark Briscoe was saying. I don't know if you caught that.
I did. They're going for Kyle O'Reilly being kind of entranced by. I'm going to have a little bit more patience with that, to be honest with you, of all the things. To be honest, I didn't. Of all the things I was annoyed by over the past week with AEW, that's not one of them. To be honest, but
it's another example of like, hey, I'm going to yuck it up here, and I'm going to make funny faces while this promo's being going on, and he's overshadowing Mark Briscoe, and he was overshadowing while they're waiting for Jack Perry to walk into the camera frame. And for Mark Briscoe to pretty much hit the punchline.
Jack Perry sucks, by the way.
Yeah, he's not good, man. And he's just so small, by the way. Like, there's no getting over this.
You know he's winning the TNT championship, too, at the end of the
Absolutely. He's going to win it. And it's, you know what? It's Okada and his 3 kids.
I wonder if they're going to break 60. I mean, I don't know how many people are going to sell at Wembley, but they got 83 last year, or so they say. And, we'll see what they do this year, but
it would be because of Ospreay, man. Honestly.
Every day, well, he was there last year though. But every data point from AEW that you're seeing, every data point shows this company is in a tailspin, an absolute tailspin. TNA South. I think they're both based out of Florida.
Yeah, TNA Jacksonville.
So that's what I had on AEW, and I'm just it's getting to the point now where we got to hit the red alert button. We have to hit the red alert. We really do. You know,
it's just being realistic, and it's not. And again, say if anybody watching this is like, oh, you guys are too critical or whatever the case is. Awesome. It's not being. They're not above criticism, and we want to see them succeed.
Absolutely, they've made the world of wrestling better. They have. And Tony Khan is direct reason for it. So is all the elite, including Cody Rhodes. And God bless them for doing what they've done. But AEW has so many great players on their roster, so many great professional wrestlers, and they're being wasted. Except unless they have complete carte blanche over their character and their storyline, they were able to do it. But even when that happens, it's not presented well. Christian and Adam Copeland Christian Cage. Adam Copeland had a great feud, phenomenal feud. There was emotion, there was violence, a big finish with the I Quit match. You know when it was on? A random Tuesday Dynamite. That's when you're having the big I Quit match for your second most important title in your company. You didn't present Copeland or Christian as big time stars, and they literally told a fantastic story, a absolute great story, and it wasn't even presented like it was a big deal. And that was another disaster. Tony just has, again, that's getting that spot on a random Tuesday night, but you're going to have Okada main event, some rando. It's just, it's almost like he's doing on purpose how terrible it is. How could somebody be this bad at booking a show? How? He's making Vince McMahon, he's making 70-year-old Vince McMahon look like a genius right now. Maybe not. That was bad.
I mean, just getting back to like Okada versus the rando. Right now, the EVPs are feuding with the Acclaimed. Why wouldn't they just do like Okada versus Billy Gunn and have Okada like mostly dominate him? Have Billy Gunn get his spots real quick, and then he's a veteran and whatnot, almost like a Dustin situation. Yeah. But have Okada like, and then okay, you know what? That's something to behold. Okay, this is badass Billy Gunn against Okada. Oh no, we're gonna serve you up a rando for the main event.
And by the way, you're great. I mean, he doesn't even have to be a domination match because they've really protected Billy Gunn. Billy Gunn's one of the biggest dudes in the friggin' company.
Yeah.
So he can have a good match, and maybe even Okada wins by cheating, but he wins. It pushes the story. Again, Vladi, it's so simple, and you came up with it just on the top of your head. It's so simple to book these things right, Tony. You have one of the greatest rosters ever assembled. It's a disaster. I love you, buddy, but you're f***ing up big time. Woo! Tony the dickhead. Woo!
When it comes to booking.
Do you believe me? I'm Ric Flair, and I know how to book a show better. Tony, stupid Mark. Woo! What? He pays for the Nature Boys energy drink. Woo! So he's a good guy in my book. Woo! Tony dickhead.
It's amazing how quickly they reserved the right to not invite Ric Flair back to that show after the whole Sting situation.
His face is on there all the time. That stupid energy drink, though. I don't know what's more annoying, that one or Prime.
Yeah, that's it, man. That's all you're going to get is the cartoon Ric Flair. They don't want him personally there anymore.
Would you? He's an embarrassment.
He's
the world's worst Karen now, outside of Marjorie Taylor Greene. They kind of look alike, too, ironically.
And they can make a good tag team.
Let me tell you something about Ric Flair. Ric Flair is legend. He's like Jesus Christ. He's like Jesus. I'm God. Woo! Ric Flair. Now get me a drink. I cough. Drunk. I don't want to get personal with Flair. He had a. You can see why he's a drunk. He doesn't have hangovers, and he had a rough childhood. And he survived a freaking plane crash up.
Yeah, God bless him.
You figure that, yeah. And if he keeps on getting wasted at 73, you're still just a drunk at this point in time.
I tell you, man, if I drink too much, I'm done for like 2 or 3 days.
Yeah, God bless him. He can at his age, he can outdrink either one of us, which is incredible.
Exactly. Yeah,
I want to try it. I want to start doing shots with him. I got to go down in Tampa Bay and just stalk where he goes, and I'm just going to go in there. Oh, you look familiar, and act like I don't know him.
Buy his drinks,
and then I'm like, oh, wait a minute, are you Ric Flair? I remember you. I watched you when I was a kid. You sure are drunk. Woo! Dropping elbows on people, random people. But fuck. I mean, Ric Flair could probably book a drunk Ric Flair could probably book a better show than Tony Khan. You have your baby face get beat down at the end of the show, and he comes back at the pay-per-view. Woo! Common sense, Mark. But yeah, I mean, again, and AEW's doing some good things, but Tony, I don't know. That's all I got for AEW this week, man.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned the Swerve and Ospreay promo. Very good stuff, I thought. One thing I would have liked there is Christopher Daniels, aka Adam Pearce, or AEW's version of Adam Pearce, come out there. Like, not just being, he's even grown a beard now. So, like,
it's a joke. Wears the same kind of suits.
It's, again, another rib. Like, it's all we do is comedy. So I would have, now they almost had like the, when Swerve went and mentioned his wife and kid at the end there. To me, it would have been great if Pierce was there, just saying, "Hey, I'm overseeing this on behalf of," or Pierce. I'm sorry, Christopher Daniels. If he had Christopher Daniels out there just to begin with, because this would be something like, "Hey, Tony Khan sent me out here because this is the world title is involved here, the international championship is involved, and we're not just so like young buck centric, if you will." Yeah. And one of the other things I liked about their promo as they were going back and forth, I kind of like how Nana grabbed the microphone and was putting over the match and selling it again, and the crowd was like getting like energetic, right? And so then, Ospreay thought he got the last word in with the, whose house, my house, basically, and dropped the microphone. Swerve wouldn't let it go, mentions his wife and kids one more time. And then all of a sudden they're bumping against each other, and nobody's there to stop it or pull it apart. Like, to me, it would have been great if Daniels were there. It's like, "Hey, calm down, nothing right now, blah, blah, blah." And then go your separate ways. Because I don't even know how they went their separate ways or why they would without even throwing blows at each other at that point.
Well, the thing is, they have security come out half the time.
Yeah.
It's not something that they don't do. It's just random and has no real reason. Oh, we got to keep this, like, how many times was Hook kept from somebody? And Hook had to go through the security guards.
Or Wardlow.
I mean, it's just done randomly and doesn't seem to have a purpose, like most of AEW storylines.
Yeah.
Why can't you just like good wrestling?
Yeah.
I can watch fake fights anywhere, folks. Yeah. I hate to use the word fake. I don't mean it. The wrestling's fake. I trained. I get it. I know how hard it is on your body. But I'm saying staged fights. There we go. Predetermined fights. There needs to be a reason why you care who wins those matches. And it just, it's gotten worse when it was supposed to get better. After you had a really bad 2023, it's supposed to get better. And it started getting better, but all of a sudden, I mean, MJF, has he made that much of an impact since he's been back? I can't say he has, folks.
No.
He shouldn't be having 25-minute bangers falling all over concrete floors.
Yeah, and honestly, like, and I was reminded watching that match, and I hate that I'm going to actually go and like bring this up because I think the last time I was actually sympathetic to Jack Perry was when he wrestled Roosh. Roosh took like complete liberties with him. And as I'm watching this match, here MJF is, first match, returning after he lost the world title. And within 30 seconds of this match, you have Roosh reaching down and giving him a cup check. And I'm like, you know what, man? Like, this is horse shit. Like, MJF is one of the top 2 or 3 guys in that company. Mm-hmm. He shouldn't be going toe-to-toe with a glorified luchador. Sorry, Roosh. Even though I think he serves a purpose, he's a great henchman. I love him for the Don Callis family. Great. But MJF should not be like, and take this, the way it is, slumming it professionally at this moment with him.
Slumming's harsh. Slumming's harsh. I actually thought Roosh carried MJF in a lot of that match, to be honest with you.
But that's a sin. That's a sin that you even had to think that or thought that.
You're exactly right. I agree with you. He shouldn't be having 25-minute physical bangers where he can get hurt very easily.
Exactly. Yeah.
And by the way, because these matches don't mean anything. It happened once, and now he's done with Roosh, and you're never going to see him do Roosh. I mean, it's just, again, let's have the best matches possible all the time. Well, if the best matches are happening on Wednesday night, there's other best matches happening on Sunday night. Maybe I'm not going to pay $50 because I'm going to get the great matches anyway.
Exactly.
It's just there's so many things that he's doing wrong, and I don't want to agree with Eric Bischoff and Jim Cornette so much. Well, I'm Cornette, I don't mind agreeing with, but I mean, it's to the point where maybe Bischoff should take over AEW. Honestly, he can't. He's not going to be worse. He definitely is better than Tony Khan. There's enough data points and enough I've seen to know Eric Bischoff can run a company better than Tony Khan. Fine, I said it. Oh, wow. Yeah, and I hate Bischoff. But I don't hate Bischoff as much as I used to, because then I realized Vince Russo's in the world, and it's like, oh.
Yeah, there's more to hate.
Oh, Vince Russo. Holy shit, he's terrible. Terrible human, liar, delusions of grandeur and ego. Some of the things that he said. I think you sent me something.
Yeah.
What was this quote you sent me about? Because everyone's talking about who killed WCW.
Yeah, his quote was something along the line of, I got it here for a second. Hold on.
Take your time. We made phenomenal time tonight. We had an hour and a half. We have some time constraints, which we don't usually have. And Vladi, we have gone through all the subjects that we needed to tackle. And we want to thank each and every one of you who tuned in and listened to us on Spotify. You can get us anywhere you listen to your podcasts. Of course, Apple, Amazon, anywhere. Hey, check us out on Facebook. We have a brand new page. We're just getting going. Just hit 500 people. We are open. We don't do the tribalism. We try to keep it positive. We do not allow personal attacks, and we don't allow tribalism. So if you want that kind of fresh air besides the normal bullshit, negative crap you get in pretty much every other wrestling group, well, you should come to High Spots and Cheap Pops Pro Wrestling fan page. We would love to have you. Also, check us out on Facebook, High Spots and Cheap Pops, our actual page, not our group. That's pretty badass too. And you can check me out on High Popper. I'm very rarely on Twitter, but that is it. It's at High Popper. And I'm also on TikTok, Silicon Steve Valley, where we post a lot of our content that we usually put on YouTube. And of course, if you're on YouTube, folks, we just hit over 2,000 subscribers. We're super excited about where our podcast is going. So if you get on YouTube, you like some of our comedy bits, you like our commentary, do us a favor, hit the subscribe button. Let us know what you think. So, for Vladi Dadi, ladies and gentlemen, this is Silicon Steve Valley. Here endeth the lesson, and thank you for listening to High Spots and Cheap Pops.